Okay, so I put this into my chat GPT for your current version, and I'm going to scroll down because you can read your current version in the text message. But here's what it says. So first of all, major problems with the letter. One, it claims personal injury and medical treatment. Now that's tomorrow, so that has to be documented, or otherwise we have to change the letter a little bit. But as long as that's documented and accurate, that can stay. Now it cites statutes and accuses them of violating Georgia law. Now, here's where I didn't understand what it was talking about at first. But we'll get back into that actually. And then it says, now it says you can't represent the claimants because here's the difference. And this one's an easier one. Representing is legal terminology as opposed to lawful terminology, which is counsel. The Constitution grants everyone the right to counsel, but they don't grant everyone the right to represent others. So that's why counselor for or counsel for, you know, Edward is much safer, even though it looks like it wouldn't work. And a court of law will be like, we have the constitutional right to be counsel. Like, you can't take that away from us. So that would be better than I represent or my client, because that makes it look business like. So now I don't know what it's talking about. It introduces a second minor, the daughter. Because I said there was a kid or kids in the car, and now it's saying I introduced a kid and it's given them a name, but it didn't give the other kid a name. So maybe this was, I don't know why I said I introduced a kid. It just should have given the kid a name, Brimsley. But basically, that should be right. And I told it, you'll see later what I told it. Now, the letter's way too accusatory. It reads like a lawyer wrote it. And I was like, what's the problem with that? It's like, you're not one. I'm like, neither is a lawyer. Like, we'll get into that. And again, we need to get the claims the child was lifted in the air and had documented injury, so we need to make sure that's documented. So these are the parts that says it's good to keep, and it gives you a corrected version, but I didn't even put
You've got mail.
what I wanted to change in there, so I'll go slowly so you can read this. And we would change, instead of counselor for the claimant, we could just put counsel for the claimant. Which would even be safer than counselor, just counsel for the claimant. And you can pause this and read it if you want. But that's what it changed from your version. But here's where I went into. Okay, yes, hold on. Okay, so I've told it that it never told me you're not supposed to cite statute or laws unless you're an attorney. And so I went into that, and that was like second. I was like fourth party of the story, not even third party. So I gave it to you guys to get the facts straight. So Chat GPT should take any facts from yours, like any discrepancies, use your version. And then I was like, who cares if it reads like a lawyer wrote it? I'm not one. I don't have to be one. And here's what it said. Blah, 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 blah. Georgia, and I've had a problem with this. So now I finally, once I got down to here, I understood what it was saying. UPL statutes. Basically, this is saying, like, you know, I represent my client, like stuff like that. You can't do that. And like, but this also right here, where it says you violated this, the state of Georgia is very strict and says only attorneys can accuse someone of a statutory violation. And I asked them why they get more rights than us, and we'll get into that in a second. But I've had a lot of stuff thrown out when I say they broke this law or they violated this, and they'll tell me that I had no facts for that and they'll throw it out. But what you can say is this conduct constitutes or not, it can be accusatory but not definitive, basically. So it raises questions like, Yue, what are you licking? Please stop. So it can say it raises questions. You can state facts like, according to this use OCGA law, repossession must not involve a breach of peace. That's a fact. But if you say they breached the peace, you're claiming they broke the law, and you can't do that because Georgia will throw it out saying you have no evidence for that. And it's not something they should be allowed to do, but they do it anyway. So they'll keep everything from your version. Yeah, I want to be counsel, not attorney. Oh, I can identify as counselor for the claimant too. So that's and lay counsel, private counsel, constitutional counsel. So all those are fine. And I'll avoid PMA counsel unless we're talking internally, because then people's like, what's a PMA? And then you have to go into what that is. And it's basically like Costco or Sam's Club, like where they have their own laws and rules and can have their own police and security because it's private instead of public. So the police have no jurisdiction there. So this is when I asked why attorneys get more rights. And it's like basically they don't have more rights. Originally, anyone could be counsel, blah, blah, blah. You can stop and read any of this if you want. But in the late 1800s, it says they created a cartel. It was basically like a handshake deal. So I was asking if the privilege is granted by the state bar, which is a private corporation that has no power over courts unless they're bribing the courts. Like, why did the courts listen to them? So this is why it happened. So the state bar is a private corporation, but they influenced about 100 years ago with a handshake deal. Let's see. They were never given authority to do that. There we go. The only power is a handshake deal they made about 100 years ago, where they formed private clubs. They wanted a monopoly, which is illegal. They wanted to, it gave courts, more control, more money, insider networks, protection from the public, all stuff they weren't supposed to do. So it's all illegal what they're doing. But they're still going to do it anyway. So that's why we have to play by their rules and not say you broke this law, but you could say according to this law you can't breach the peace, and according to this law, like lifting someone up while in the car is a breach of peace, basically. But you can't straight up accuse them of it. It has to be, yeah. So I'm going to have ChatGPT rewrite it and post it for you, but I'm also going to post this video that goes along with it. And so there we go. I'm going to have it build the document now, and I'm going to upload this to YouTube.